We're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody. It's 6:20. Calling the Port of Entry Advisory Committee to order here at the conference room at the America Bridge Conference Room, second floor. Roll call. Mónica Salinas.
Here.
Carlos Fernandez. Absent. Jesus Olivares.
Here.
JD, almost here. Joe Benavides. Here. Luis Hinojosa.
Here.
Rick Laurel.
Here.
Arturo Dominguez here. Mr. Emilio Richer, absent. David Puig.
Here.
Tony Arce.
Here.
Carlos Martinez.
Here.
Jorge Cavazos.
Sort of.
Mr. Martinez, Joe Martinez on behalf of
Yes. There you go. There you go.
Jason Hinojosa.
Here.
Gerardo Maldonado.
Here.
All righty. Ya llegó el, bueno. Diego.
Llegó para el Pledge of Allegiance.
Next pledge of allegiance.
JD.
Venía corriendo, venía en carro. Venía en bicicleta.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ahí está botellita de agua. Quiero mojar, por favor.
No, thanks, my apologies. That's the trip I came back to San Antonio, man.
Who's in
Going
charge?
in the speed business.
Who's in charge of the traffic?
Because we only handle bridges.
Moving right along.
Yeah, we need a green corridor from San Antonio.
Any public, you share the agenda?
Here you go. Here you go.
So set up, okay. Is there any public comments? There anything submitted? Awesome. Great. All right, next in line, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You guys have all reviewed it. Any comments, discussion?
Nope.
Let's move forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Before we go forward, anybody want to go first or anything, or does anybody have a rush? So Albert, you're already first anyway, so you're gonna sit there. I was gonna keep you last, you know, we hardly ever get to keep you here.
What do you mean I go last? Yo lo hay que mandar al último.
Vamos a mandar intensivo.
Sorry, didn't know I had to put together.
Dejarlo al último.
It's really bring you up to speed on just trade operations here.
Yes. The item reads regarding empty trailers crossing through World Trade Bridge, Columbia Solidarity, and any other matters incident.
Go ahead. Incident there too. Agentes de todo.
Well, since the change occurred back in December 2021,
22.
and I think we made it official, so maybe around that timeline. So since the change, obviously, we've seen traffic flows a lot better. We've seen, obviously, industry applauding, I think, the change because it has provided some relief to the World Trade Bridge in regards to wait times, congestion, and more importantly, the users of the bridge, in this case, the drivers, are okay, they aren't protesting, haven't been complaining about the long wait times. On the flip side of that, of course, making this change meant that we had to redirect approximately about 1,000 empty trailers that would cross through World Trade Bridge to the Columbia Bridge. Obviously, the impact affected some carriers, and we did hear about the displeasure of the change and, of course, added cost. But since the change, I think everyone has adapted to the change. Things up until maybe a couple of months ago were okay. Not only did we see wait times reduced at World Trade Bridge, but we did see actually laden cargo increase. We did start seeing more cargo, not only at World Trade Bridge, but at Columbia. In fact, today, if you look at the entire southern border, obviously World Trade Bridge the number one import in the Western Hemisphere. But, Colombia now is the third busiest water crossing in the Southwest border. We're only second to Otay Mesa, and it's roughly about 800 trucks or more that they do than Colombia. Again, Colombia has consistently been processing between 2,400 and 2,600 trucks daily. Of those, I would say about 50% of them are empty containers. But at Colombia, we have seen cargo increase. At World Trade Bridge, we are processing roughly about 85% laden cargo and about 15% of them being empty containers. When we made the move of the empty containers, the only movement that was affected were those that are not in the CT map. And we still have roughly about 2,000 empty containers crossing through World Trade Bridge. But in order to use World Trade Bridge, you have to be enrolled in the CT map program. We're fortunate enough to have Director Mike Garza as the first director for the Laredo's very own CTPAT office. And I know that they're, going to be making a lot of effort to try to enroll more people in the program. And there's two benefits to that. Of course, the benefit that you'll have, the use of the World Trade Bridge. And of course, the benefit for CBP is that they will become, a trusted shipper, so that we won't have to really focus on, because they do undergo through a tremendous amount of vetting, daily. I know that there has been, the issue of the added fee at Colombia that has obviously brought this issue right to light. I have been questioned on the record as to whether or not there would be consideration of bringing the empties, and I would strongly oppose change, because World Trade right now is already at about 8,500 trucks a day that we process. There's days that we get close to 9,000. That facility will be at capacity at about 10,000 units. You make the change, from one day to the next, you bring 1,000 to 1,200 trucks, and I will bring, and you will have to relive all the issues that we were having to relive when we first decided to move.
I want to follow-up question on that more than anything else. Yeah, thanks for giving that information. We've already had this discussion before. I know that you're moving forward, but taking consideration 2 or 3 years from now, we should be having the expansion already at World Trade Bridge. Almost finalized, right? So with that being said, is there an opportunity then in a couple of years, or are you not even going to take that consideration due to the fact that there will be additional lanes there?
So we'll certainly be open to revisiting the issue or the concern of bringing those empties. But I do want to keep the community here informed that Laredo as a whole has experienced cargo volumes increasing between 3 and 5% annually, and have been very consistent here from 2010 to present.
What was the percentage again?
Between 3 and 5%.
3 to 5, thank you.
Increase.
Yeah.
So, in 3 to 5 years, again, even with the expansion, you will still probably be seeing the same amount of cargo or even more at Victory Bridge. The fact that we have CTPAT in Laredo, again, the idea would be to enroll more people in that program. So you will have, again, sufficient cargo already at World Trade. But again, a lot of things can change in 3 to 5 years, and certainly we will be open to time.
Chairman, is that something that you would like for that to happen? For that
Wait, it all depends, because there's been a lot of discussion. Me, myself, I'm just wishing an opinion from the trade. Okay.
Oh, I was just, I never heard.
And also, just before you get into I know the other thing, I know that we got mine coming up there as well, because I know that was one of the other things that were going on, and we had onto that already. But just another topic that's also of concern. I know that they're talking about the B1 drivers and all the traders are here, and they're talking about that, English being the preferred language. Is Customs doing that, or is that going to be going into the?
From what I understand, that's a.
It's a DPS issue. It's an FMCSA issue, and it's going to be enforced by DOT and DPS. It is, respectfully, it is not an immigration issue, so it shouldn't be something that.
But are you guys still following up on the cabotage as well, or looking at that?
So we look at those on a case by case. Again, our mission is not to be canceling drivers. And we know already that there's a shortage of drivers. Depending on the case, if it's someone that's, repeatedly, doing it, then obviously we will take the worst case scenario, which would be to cancel the visa. But if it's someone that, just was ignorant to the violation, we do a lot of informed compliance. Some of the things that we've been doing here for a while now is that we know that a lot of these drivers are being asked from the owners of the companies. So we are actually asking the carriers, the owners of the trucking companies, to come and talk to us, so that we can tell them that they can't be asking the drivers to do this because it's against their status of the visa.
And so, and you know what, just if you want to define cabotage, because that's something in your area of expertise, so.
Yes, so, first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Flores, for the partnership.
Oh, yeah, cambiaron el topic.
And everything that you do for the industry. Going back originally to the empties, we as an industry, the Laredo Motor Carriers Association supports the empties, the non-CTPAT empties move to Colombia, and we feel it was the right thing to do, and it has helped our members that move freight from Mexico to the U.S. tremendously. So that support is there and will continue to be there. So thank you for that. On the B1s, we also support the enforcement. We thank you for the enforcement. Any rule that's out there that there's not a lot of enforcement, or there is very minimum enforcement, unfortunately, there will be bad actors that are gonna start taking advantage of it. And that is not the way to do business. That is not what we promote as an industry. We are grateful that you guys are starting to enforce that. And like you said, the goal is not to cancel a driver or take his livelihood away. But in all fairness, and I'll say this as a private person, if I'm breaking the law and I know I'm breaking the law, there's consequences. So, it shouldn't be a surprise if I get caught, breaking the law just because nobody was checking. So thank you for those random inspections, or whatever they're called.
True.
Mr. Flores, back in 2022, Supervisor McCorkle gave us some data, and that's the only data that we saw on the empties back then, that in that first quarter of 2023, there was like a difference of 1,400 trailer difference between Laredo and Colombia on the empties, which I thought was reasonable. It was not lopsided. It was okay. And again, you have to be CTPAT to come through here. I think that's a good benefit, and I think that helps people to go into the program. The question is, why we brought this issue back is because the mayor brought it in a meeting, and they're talking about that. And honestly, there's no need for that. I think this committee agrees that things should be status quo. Well, at least some of us. I don't know the rest, but
I agree.
that's why I wanted to bring it to a vote.
I agree.
I think we wanted to bring it to a vote so that we can send a message to the mayor telling him, yeah, throw this away. We don't want that. This is what the committee wants. And that's it. I mean, the majority, whatever the majority wants.
Yeah.
And to stop talking about that, because it just disturbs
And
everything.
I appreciate that, because again, when we decided to make this change, we didn't do it in a vacuum. We had industry, people from the industry be at the table, and obviously we asked, what options do we have? Honestly, there were no options. We were the only ones that stepped up and said, we need to move the empties. Everyone agreed, and then of course, we knew that there was gonna be impact. People were gonna get affected. But again, at the end of the day, like I said, you gotta consider this, as a whole.
Holistic.
It's not just for a matter of a fee.
And I guess the ones that were not CTPAT certified were the ones that were doing.
Correct.
But now we have a CTPAT office here, and it should push them towards that.
That's it.
It's not next on the agenda.
And maybe JD,
Yeah.
adding to that, we should let them know, to the mayor and to the council people, that when the expansion is gonna be ready, we still have like 2 or 3 miles on the Mexican side with trucks lining up, trying to cross. So we are not gonna mess up, and we are not gonna be enough bridge for that. Like, maybe we need to convey that information to them. Maybe they don't know, like, we have still long lines, a lot of trucks like that are sitting down there, and they need to cross like as fast. And if we bring back the empties, even when we have the expansion, it's not gonna be enough, and it's not gonna help.
This ain't more anything else, it's just more open discussion, so it's not really a motion.
Oh.
So it's just a discussion, so let's move on.
No, but we do have a motion from.
Well, I would like to make the motion.
We do have a motion.
I would like to make the motion that we send a message to the mayor and the city council that the Board of Entry Advisory Commission position on empties to stay status quo.
A second.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay, but before that,
Discussion?
Chewy was gonna have had a comment
Discussion?
first. so.
Discussion, now
I'm not,
Here's what we-
my comments are not related to that. They're related to, as to the relocation of those fast lanes and the equipment and who's gonna provide it. Is it the city or is it CDP? I know there's been some work relocating some lines and so forth for the fast lane. Is that gonna have to be relocated to adjust to the new lanes or
To
anything?
the bridge expansion, you
Oh,
mean?
It's because Sid Milky talked about adding additional fast
Yeah.
lanes.
So I made the recommendation because, when they built the lanes, they left two of them prepped for the future. So the future's now. Let's not wait until you're done.
If you're gonna do it, do it
expanding the
now.
bridge. Gotta do
Right
it,
now.
you know, together at the same
Right.
time. This will be pointless that you expand the bridge and then
Exactly.
a month later, you're gonna start another
It's
construction.
gonna be harder.
So, yeah, I propose this is the time to do everything at once and, you know, expand the bridge by 2 additional lanes.
I think it only, if you leave everything ready, in the future, if you're going to need it, which I think we will, you'll already be prepared.
It's better to grow into it than.
Do it now, pay for it now, as opposed to having to pay for it later, and it's gonna be twice as much from that. And then you're gonna have to dig everything up. So it's gonna take you
More destruction.
more.
So there's a motion and a second on the table.
Is this an action item, the way it's listed on the agenda?
It wasn't, but it is made.
They made a motion, so the motion
just
is
wanna
to
make sure
keep
that's-
keep that empty, Columbia as status quo. Any comments and additional
Discussion.
discussion on?
No.
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion
Can,
passed.
can I ask another question? We're talking about World Trade Bridge. I know it's hard, that's a hard answer, but on those B1s, what's the percentage? We have another presentation, I think it's gonna be a very good topic. The B1s, is it, at least half of the drivers are B1s? A little
Can
bit
you
more than
tell?
half?
Yeah, I've heard like today on the call, I heard like 70, I heard 90, they're all over.
Is it possible for you to tell?
B1, well,
B1 drivers, how many cross the
I guess
world?
the easiest way to answer that is I have very, very few that are US citizens.
No.
If I, let me, maybe I word the question this way. So, you have a database in your system, right? That tells you, are you able to provide feedback that says, today on June, I don't know what today is, you check how many active B1 visas are right now active here in Laredo or in Colombia or in World
Probably
Trade?
the vast majority, because, again,
I guess the question that we have been asked several times is, how many are there really B1 drivers? We have no idea, right? So maybe if it's information you could share, it would just be a number that say, on any random day, there's 20,000, 30,000, 2,000
50%.
active. That doesn't mean they're all working. That just means that those are people that have that, whatever time frame that they get in for 3 months, 6 months.
well, it's rare that they'll have a visa, just a B1 visa. It's normally a B1, B2, whether they're
Well,
working or they're visiting for pleasure.
oh, so there's no way for you to
So usually the
differentiate.
visa's a B1, B2.
But
It's
there is at the
that
bridge, no? At the
It's rare
World
that
Trade?
you would have just a sole B1.
Well, what about the I-90? Is it an I-94 permit
So I
that they
think
have?
you guys might be confusing, so those that you're
Point to
going
point.
into the interior, how
Yes.
many of those do we have?
Yes.
It's a very small percentage.
That's what we're asking.
So if you're asking me how many of the drivers that are crossing are actually drivers that are taking it from origin to destination?
Yes.
Very small percentage, very small.
Okay.
5?
Less than
10%?
maybe 2-3%. That's,
Really?
we have a universe of
Es que, Monica, there's way more transfer drivers than there are B1.
No, but I'm concerned because when I talk to different like owners of the transportation companies, they say like most of my drivers are B1. They are not U.S. citizens.
That's
So-
what we need to have.
They're Mexican.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all it means, no?
That doesn't mean that they're going into the interior.
No, that means they are using them to deliver and drop off the cargo into the United States.
Is there something that the Laredo Motor Carriers Association checks with their?
Well, they have to have a U.S. entity to be members, and that's a U.S. DOT number and moving authority to move it and operate in the United States. But that does not give us any data on how many B1 drivers they have, and it's not something that they will willingly share, which is fair. So, but we get asked a lot, how many B1 drivers are in Laredo? How many operate through your port? I say, I have no idea. I mean, we don't know. So, and maybe there is no way to figure that out, because I know if I was a B1 driver, I have to have a visa, of course, and I get an I-94 permit. I think it's on an app, right? Maybe there was a way, but that I-94 permit is not only restricted for operating a commercial vehicle, correct? Or is it?
Specific for that.
So if it is restricted
So
for
we have
that,
a B1 driver, if we have a driver
Mhm.
from Mexico, that has a B1, B2 visa,
Mhm.
and he's asking that he wants to be able to take a truck from Mexico to
To
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio.
All right?
Yes.
So long as he has a sponsorship, as long as he meets the DOT requirements, and that would be separate apart, not of CBP business, we would issue the I-94,
Mm.
and he's good to go.
Okay, so then on that I-94, are you able to share, maybe you're not able to share, with this committee on any random day, like once a month, or maybe, I don't know, how many active
I can
I-94
probably
permits?
come back and give you a general idea of how many of those we issue on a monthly basis.
That would help.
That would-
Because it helps.
Talk to representatives, it's very helpful because there's random numbers right now. And with that information, it'll be a little bit more.
So yeah, that will be, if you don't mind, that will be great data just to have an idea.
And I think right now, Mike, is for the duration of the trip.
Back to duration of trip.
And how long is it for? Like 15 days?
From time, no, it's back to duration.
That was the best deal for the cabin. The 6 month. 2 weeks.
To ask if it's multiple weeks.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just for the,
We're taking
that
that
trip.
trip to the 6 month.
It's per trip.
Okay.
I-94 per trip.
They're like 15 days. They can't have like, they can't do it for 6 months. I think they short out 15 days.
Yeah,
right?
it's 'cause it
They were
was,
taking advantage.
it was a lot of work.
But you can go and come back a lot of times in 15 days.
Well, it depends where they're going.
Or 3 times to Ohio, I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's illegal.
No, as long as you're crossing, it's not.
As long as you're crossing, it's not.
But I mean, if they go interior, so that's where the confusion comes in about the area.
What measures does CBP have to control the cabotage? Like up north, once they leave from here and they're in Ohio,
So
they go to
once,
New
once you
Jersey.
get past the checkpoint, then pretty much.
That's it.
It's every man for
I think they've been at
himself.
the checkpoint recently, right?
The honor system.
Yeah.
Hombre, hombre.
Any additional comments? I know there's a lot going on, taking consideration. And Albert's a busy person, and so I was begging, like, come on, dude.
I haven't seen them in a while.
No.
It's not fair. You take 20 minutes from our time with Albert.
Sorry about that. So.
I know this item is coming up, but you give us your view on the green corridors of how CDP is interjected yet?
So I'll continue to get invited. So,
Without going too much into
no,
green
no,
corridors, because we have some.
because they came knocking on our door, and they just provided the presentation of what their idea was and what we thought of about it. Of course, obviously, it's next generation type of thing. We talk about elevated bridges, cross-border, in pods and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's pretty impressive. I think the way they were telling us, it's going to be multiple phases. It would be a terminal on the Mexican side and a terminal on the U.S. side, close proximity to the border crossing, and we would have these pods going back and forth. Of course, they would have to obviously meet some requirements for us.
Mhm.
We're kind of seeing it similar to what we do in the rail environment.
I was gonna say, it's just another rail bridge for you, right?
Bridge.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty much.
Going back to World Trade. Besides that recommendation about the extra 2 lanes, what other recommendations does the tower, would be that good for World Trade?
So we had talked about that. When
The
we-
control
tower?
A control tower. We're so big, you're talking about a 30-acre piece of land. It's hard to have eyes. You know, cameras can only do so much, but we have talked at one time about having an elevated tower where you have a 360 view of the entire operation. Just better tracking, better security. How would that look? Just depends what, you know, we would offer us.
Would that
We don't
remove,
want, you know,
would that remove the exit gate?
at one point, yes.
Yes.
Well, again, there's so much technology out there. You know, we've been in discussions with 4.5, you know, how we would want that bridge to look like, requirements, and they're talking about, you know, madness lanes and stuff like that. That's like next generation stuff. It's not far-fetched, you know, we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence for X-ray. We could do a lot of, you could put a lot of technology in the process, but you still kind of eliminate the officer. You're still gonna need the officer at one point. But, you know, they talked about, you know, working with transponders, RFIDs. I know we've talked about RFIDs, but, you know, what's that next piece of technology out there that's gonna replace RFIDs? That's why, well, sometimes we were kind of concerned when they're trying to push a piece of technology, knowing that next year there's gonna be something better.
It's just everything gets obsolete so quick.
Yes.
But is there plans to like modify inside or something
Well, sure.
that, yes, nothing?
The
Like
routing
the Bat Cave and all that?
We are gonna, I think, working on moving the back yes. That's the secondary expressor roof that we have between primary and exit gate. When we first opened, we used it as the inspection point. But right now, with the X-rays that we have, you know, in pre-primary, that
Became obsolete.
operation has been obsolete. And it's in the way. If we can remove that, it's gonna make.
I was gonna say, what would be the benefit of removing it?
well,
It's just in the way.
Traffic flows so much better.
But
You know,
that-
it was 2-3 extra lanes for trucks to exit the facility. I know that the city's working on it.
So not to build anything, not to build,
No.
there's no need to build that. That was,
Yeah. Just going back to the FRD, we had a discussion, I know the city's here as well, so, but that being said, you made a comment, it could be obsolete in a couple of years, but at the same time, headquarters seems to be talking about developing some kind of method to export and for compliance, in addition, close out the bonds, dealing with the EIN numbers for the AES submissions. So they already mentally have a project 2 years, but I know I haven't filtered out the trade, I know that I've given you a lot of information, and we see where we're going at. This, the city has asked for budget dreams, you know, what we could go out there, I know that, you know, this being said, that being within a 2-year project, knowing 2 years to govern means 5 years, but I don't know this department right now. But, is there an opportunity to work together to sit there and, you know, get the stand or something like that, or even some kind of discussion so we can kind of move forward, whenever they want to move forward, whenever they do discuss it, take consideration, hey, we already stepped ahead, the headquarters
Certainly
state.
open to discussion, GB. I know that there's always been a lot of emphasis on trucks from Mexico to the US, but now we're really kind of shifting, and also we want to see what's going on to Mexico as well. They talked about the single manifest for outbound, so it will be, you know, a good idea to start thinking about, you know, how can we prepare in the event that they would, you know, ask us that now you're going to have to be screening
In and out, in and out.
going out of the country. You know, it's gonna be technology with RFIDs, you know, QR codes, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that's in the market.
Yeah, how's the QR codes working right now? More
The
comments?
RFIDs are just being used for time studies, correct, right now?
So there's a couple on the bridge already that Texas.
Tammy, you presented to us a couple
Yeah,
of
the
months.
wait times and crossing times.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This will be separate because of the fact that the information that we provided just to you guys, you guys have a unique kind of.
You just have on the bridge, or do you go deep into
Well,
Mexico?
Actually, that project program has some, in certain locations in Mexico.
Interior.
It starts measuring times on the bridge, different facility. I think they're trying to get all the bridges.
Yeah.
But the idea is to give, you know, people or public, an opportunity to see how wait times are in certain bridges. And crossing times, you know, how long is it taking to cross versus, by waiting.
is there any?
That's a pretty accurate number right there.
It's, you know, we're shocked at the information they provided, very good information.
Is there any more space for primary booths?
For what's that?
Primary booths.
At World Trade?
We're talking about World Trade.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
There is?
We've had discussions with Mr. Moki How can we take what we have now and further expand? And he's kind of worked out where, well, maybe you can do this, we'll have existing and you can put something back. He's got ideas.
That's what I was gonna ask you, is, as far as looking at the way the plans are being designed, are you all pretty much in the loop, or?
So we worked very well with Sid when we were gonna deploy the X-ray systems. We actually called him and said, hey Sid, you know, I know there's discussion about, you know, expanding the trade. Headquarters giving us these tools and new systems. I wanna make sure that we position them right. So if we're gonna build a bridge, they're gonna be straight off the bridge, and he was very helpful in working with the CDP headquarters and making sure that we put them aligned with
They're aligned.
with the way that bridge is gonna be built.
Good,
Yeah.
real good.
In consideration, you gotta be commissioner.
And he just got confirmed and he was here visiting and
He was already on the radar?
He was here yesterday and today, right? Today? Heard that. I
he
heard
still
that.
hadn't been confirmed, he got confirmed as he was trying to. So you got all the most congratulations.
His first night.
First visit was on it.
How, looking, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road, staffing wise, how are you doing?
You know what, Congressman's been actively, you know, supporting, you know, making sure that people at headquarters or in Congress understand that it's just not the management great, and then we'll also come on. He's done a great job. We are coming up in a very critical point, and where we are going to have a lot of people that are going to retire in 2028, and myself.
No.
Wait a minute.
24 director not allowed to retire?
24?
No, it's that, actually, for the last several years, I'm proud to say that staffing is good.
Yep.
That's something to keep in mind, because, you know, there we are gonna expand. all
Yeah,
these
expansions, you know, Bridge
Yeah,
405, green corridors, you know, those projects are, you know, some are short term, some are long term, but you gotta have staff.
So the timeline for 4 or 5?
The humanware has to be there.
I know I won't be here, but yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I just said, invite me to the ribbon cutting. It's probably gonna be part of all the headings and plannings.
Do they have you involved in that bridge too?
Yes.
That's an additional personnel.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
It's a brand new bridge, yeah.
But it doesn't have a presidential permit.
Yeah.
I mean, the Green Corridor does.
No,
They all do.
They all
Turn
have-
dirt to finishing the bridge.
They all have
They all
presidential
have
permits.
now.
Yeah.
More presidential.
We've got, this city, county has more permits than any other
Pretty excited
community.
to have all these permits. I work with those bridges.
I've never heard of so many permits at the one to get.
The most.
Everyone wants a bridge.
Laredo just wants more bridges.
Bridge City.
There's plenty for everyone, I'm always saying that. Just the region itself, there's a lot of growth going on. And we are having a lot of people that would traditionally, historically use the valley as a crossing point, a lot of worship.
To know her.
What was the last talk that we heard about produce? How's that going?
Oh, yeah,
Yes?
Yes,
We talked about that 2 months ago.
yes. And historically, the valley has always been.
Yes. When you said the valley, that's what I,
But we, you know, for years now, we've had people, you know, partially bring some of their cargo to Laredo. Again, Columbia, again, has been was one of the selling points because of the refrigerated units that we have out there. It got so busy that, you know, we further expanded and we have that offsite now. Again, the idea is to continue building on pushing produce to come our way. You know, whether it's World Trade or Columbia, we have facilities. Thanks to the city back in 2011, and they built out these cold units and said, "What are we doing?" But look at us now. We've already outgrown one, and World Trade Bridge is pretty.
Well, you know, it helps to have cold storage build and expand here in Laredo, because they cost a lot of produce that they have to ride and get it ready for the shelves, right? Not only that, but they do a lot of meat too, right?
Meat sounds like, yeah.
Softball.
There's a lot of discussion on that we had, especially at headquarters and unified and cargo processing speed. Is that working good? Is that expanding more? Or is that just, is it kind of slowing down because of now?
Well, actually, it's not slowing down. Again, unified cargo processing, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's joint inspections that we do with our counterparts from Mexico. We have actually Mexican customs officials at Moultrie Bridge and at Columbia, at the airport, at the railroad. Of course, it just it eliminates the duplication of efforts. What they would do in Mexico is now compete to do once here in the U.S. So that's when we built those gap links at Moultrie Bridge. We asked that we purposely build them a little extra, a little longer than they normally come, and that's so that we can have the Mexican official, working side by side with our officers. That way, they don't have to stop in Mexico, they'll stop in the U.S. It's just one time, so it eliminates a lot of the litigation. So we are doing very, very well. I know that ANAM at the Mexico City level supports the program. I can only say that Laredo is probably the one port of entry that has taken advantage of the opportunity to work with our counterparts, and we have only 4 locations. No other port has that.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Very good.
I know there's a big push, and we're gonna be going to Mexico City with Susan Thomas, and it's gonna be big topic conversations. But thanks for all the support, and I appreciate it.
Any other?
Got you some time for Mike?
Yeah. I think we'll wait 20 minutes.
Just the last question, and maybe doesn't have to do anything with the topic, but what do we know who's the new port director in ANAM in Nuevo Laredo? Because I know that the Coronel it's gonna left.
City?
Yeah.
He's leaving? I don't know.
No. Okay. Yeah, I think he's leaving for health reasons or something like that.
Yeah, back issue. Yeah, so whoever it is, I'm hoping that they're just open-minded.
I know.
Because it does matter. It really matters that we have that coordination,
I know.
that communication. So if he is leaving, hopefully we get some that comes in with that open-mindedness and wanting to grow and,
With the same assistant.
Not tunnel vision.
I'm gonna go back to the ECP, Mike. You say, I know World Trade Bridge does it on the Mexican side. Are you gonna try to unify when they get the expansion on there? You're on your side?
so they can do it now, they just don't have the staffing. Yeah, the booths are ready, it's just them having staff and fixing them in the US.
So just for
We already do
clarity,
that at Columbia, we actually have people at the primary at Columbia.
you're just processing the Mexican payment on the Mexican side, and on the US side, they're doing the revisions and just more
That's
revisions.
the moment.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mike's up, you're passing the baton.
Am I staying here or am I going up there?
Up here.
There you go, Mike. Here, Mike. So, we already passed the motion, so we already got the agenda items on open number 2. It's the open forum discussion with Mike Hansen, Chief of Staff. And they have Officer of the Port Director regarding supporting CTPAD program and how trade industry can expedite with the participation of fast links or increase the volume of that program.
Okay, well, just to give you some background on CTPAD, where we are as an office, I think that's kind of important to put on the table. So we finally received our full staffing starting back in February. Prior to February, we only had ribbon cutting back on November 1st. We were staffed by people on temporary duty, temporary detail. But Cindy McCorkle, who was a great supervisor with OFO, she was the first hire as a supervisor. She was the first official hire for the Laredo CTPAD office. So from there, we hired 5 specialists. It was 5. And we had an additional specialist that came in at the end of last month, so we're now up to 6 specialists. We're up to 6 specialists. We have a 7th who's scheduled to report for duty in July. And I was speaking with Peter Toohey. There's a big push to try to get us 4 more and get us up to 11 by the end of the year. So we're moving along pretty quickly as far as staffing. We're expecting maybe to have, we're going to be some 5 or 6, but moving on to 11, that's big to move along. So as far as the initiatives, what we've been up to, maybe some of you are aware about the validation of this initiative that we had in Laredo. So it was used as a training exercise, and it was a way to develop our staff and also get some time in the field with experienced officers from the Miami field office. So we went in, we coordinated with the regional safety officer at the U.S. Consulate in Laredo. Because unfortunately, many of the businesses, as you know, some of these companies have been waiting 10 years or more for a validation. And it's just because of the safety risk posed in Laredo. So every time you go into a travel deferred zone, you have to coordinate with the U.S. Consulate and the regional safety officer. So yeah, it requires transportation of specialists and armored vehicles. There's a certain time frame. And in some instances, you actually need the Mexican National Guard to go beyond a 2-kilometer barrier from the embassy. So it takes a lot of planning and coordination to get that done. So we ran that operation for 7 days, and we were able to validate 46 companies total. 46 transportation companies, and then 1 manufacturer letter. So that's huge. That's a list. That was a great way to get started. That made it all the way to the commissioner. So we're proud of that accomplishment, especially when you consider that we're a new office. We're a new office. Nobody in the office comes from a CT-PAT background. As you know, I was with Spoleto with Mr. Flores for 22 years. Our specialists come from import, entry, agriculture, but the most important thing is that they're from Laredo. So that's what we're trying to cultivate here in Laredo is CT-PAT specific Laredo. Right? It's as you know, if you're CT-PAT or you know CT-PAT members, some of the accounts were in LA, some in Miami, some in Houston. Now, is that to say we're going to get everybody's account all at once? No, not necessarily, because there are quite a lot of people, there's plenty of accounts to go around. We may not be able to handle all of them, especially right now since we're in the training learning phase. But we are getting a lot of accounts, a lot of familiar faces are showing up in our hands. And that's the goal, the objective we have is to tailor something to Laredo's transportation needs. I was in Mexico City last week. I got a chance to meet with AEO, or BOEA. So we kind of extended an invitation to training and collaboration because we know from what we're hearing from trade is that AEO kind of needs some help on there as far as staffing and fulfilling their obligations to CT-PAT and environmental recognition. And so those are just a few of the things that we're working with that we're doing as we get the office established. We're still at World Trade. The plans are to stay at World Trade for the near future. If we do get 11, who knows? But at least for now, we'll still be located at World Trade. That's
You don't
the plan.
really need to be at World Trade, right? I mean,
That was part of the agreement when they actually opened up the office. That was the location that was agreed upon by headquarters. So for now, it's going to remain World Trade. Anything else, since we are tied to headquarters and not the Laredo Field Office of Port of Entry, has to go through headquarters in that decision.
Well, it's take consideration, you said 11, so counting, there'll be 13 in total counting units.
County managers, yes. And if we can, we'd like to get a mission support specialist, but that's a different funding. So it's actually easier to get the specialist than it would be to get a mission support specialist.
And whenever they first came out with this, they said there'll be no additional funding you're gonna pull from the areas. Is there additional funding required on this one?
This, no, as far as I know, it's trying to, as far as referring to the MSS or to the actual officer, or the specialist.
It's the officers and
The
specialists.
specialist or the specialist, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to see if they can pull funding from somewhere to get the authorization to get the 11. So it's not guaranteed. I just know that chances, we're being optimistic. So a lot more optimistic now than we were at the beginning of the year.
well, that $28 billion worth of tire stuff, maybe it comes from there.
But you know, I know we had some challenges when we were trying to get you guys down there because we had some resistance for something that enforced the other areas. But with that being said,
We're getting paid back, so.
with that being said, I know that one of the conversations I had with some of the gentlemen in Houston, they made it seem like we have thousands of, still companies still waiting for certification.
Yeah.
Validation, I'm sorry. They already certified it. How's the backlog and how can we move forward and what do we do to support you to get that?
If you're talking specific to Laredo, I would just preach to be patient while we try and get our feet wet and get the ball rolling. I think we've made really good progress. What we do is every individual office works with what's called a work plan. So your work plan, the directors get together, they get together at the end of the outcome, at the end of the ending fiscal year. So for us, that's going to be September. And then you issue your work plan, which means what are your plans? What are the plans set from headquarters and what are your plans for each individual office going forward for your validations going to the next fiscal year? So right now, because of the way we were set up, we were kind of getting leftovers from the different offices. That's not a bad thing. That's just what we had to do. We had no say in the accounts that we received. It's what we have to work with. So the accounts that you can't get to at that end of, say, FY25, they're considered rollovers into FY26. So the goal is to try to get as few rollovers as possible when you're going to the next fiscal year. The only problem is, none of the other field offices are located and have made the nexus to a travel deferred zone like we do. So right now, I can tell you, we have about 300 companies, 330 companies that are in our work plan for this year. Unfortunately, the majority of them are in Laredo. So it is kind of hard to coordinate and do what you have to do. That's why we did that list, to try to hit as many companies as you can, but we do have to work with the regional safety officer and the American consulate to get that, to get those escorts that we need to go into those zones. So sometimes it may be able to support an operation for 10 days, but it looks like we may have to wind up doing smaller trips, which means if we can knock out 2-3 companies a day, we have to take what we can get. So that kind of slows us down a little bit. That's why it's important to work with AEO or OEA and see if they can kind of pick up that slack and pick up those areas and give us that coverage we're kind of limited to because of the safety restrictions.
Mr. Garza,
Yes, sir.
with the 46 companies that you certified or validated, what's the volume now at the fast lanes?
The volume, as far as, I haven't checked the numbers. I have to get those numbers from.
We were at 2,800 a day.
Yeah,
20, faster than 28%, 20, about 30%, right, 30%?
30%.
38, yeah, and increase that, because I know our goal is maybe 40, 10, instead of originally on saturate
It
that.
fluctuates and it's hard to measure with their work because of all the executive orders from January 20 on forward.
Everything has changed.
Yes, you have
Weekly.
peaks and valleys. So it's hard to gauge, especially, as you know, a lot of the automotive industry is CT-PAD, so you know, it's hard to gauge.
Yeah, how about, if they get certified, can they use them fast or they have to wait to get validated?
They have to get validated. That's what we're working with. So that was the delayed process for a lot of the companies in Laredo. They were certified, but they were pretty much stuck in certified status for years. They need the actual validation. It has to be a physical validation. Remote validations or virtual validations really aren't, they can be done, but in those situations, they can. It has to be a actual physical validation.
I don't know if Jerry's having a big promotion here. And go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, well, thank you. We shared with the committee that the event that thank you for the partnership to host the CTPAT, staff and yourself and everybody on July 9th. We have a lot of members that are very excited and ready to be part of the program. And the biggest, I guess, be ready to answer them on July 9th, because a lot of them say, do I put my application today or do I wait until they tell me to do it? They don't want to get lost in like you mentioned, where they get spread out and who gets assigned and all that.
Yes.
So for now, I said wait.
They can, that's ultimately their decision, because we have no real say as far as where the accounts go. I'll give an example. You can have a manufacturer in Mexico and they can have 6 facilities. 6 facilities are assigned to a specialist in Houston, and then 1 gets assigned to Laredo. So from a
Okay.
business end, you probably want to consolidate all of your businesses to Houston. It just makes more sense.
My agent was in DC for a while and now he's in Los Angeles. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, so those are some things that we have to work out. But as far as applying, it is a lengthy process. If you run through validation, you know how detailed those questions can get. So personally, I don't see anything wrong as far as maybe wanting to get a head start and at least getting that account started in the portal. That way, if you do have questions, maybe you can find a specialist who can answer some general questions and to actually assign a specialist.
Perfect.
Especially here, you
Yeah.
have our contact information, so, we just recommend do as much as you can, but if you hit a snag and you're not quite sure what to answer, then give us a call.
Thank you. Also, how easy is the transition for the trucking companies that are already OEA, but they're not CTPAT? Does that, that helps them in a way to be, I guess it should be an easier transition to go through the program? Is it still, what they were asking was, if I'm already OEA, why can't I just get a CTPAT? And I said, because it's 2 different countries, I think, number one.
For start.
Yeah. But some people, they have that concern, and I'm sure they're going to ask that question also.
No, I'm sure. Those are things we're actually looking at, right? If you were to do a side-by-side between a CTPAT validation and an OEA validation or audit, whatever they call it,
Mhm.
is it the same? How much difference is there between the two? Because remember, we visit every 4 years, they visit every 2 years. All right, so you can come fresh off an OEA audit and then you get us, and what's going on here? These aren't the same questions. That's why we're trying to maybe collaborate with them.
Okay.
And see, are we on the same page as far as the MRA, or are we doing 2 separate things under the guise of, securing supply chain. Two different ways where they just so far apart that these are things that maybe have to be revisited for consistency's sake.
All right.
With the validations going on in Nuevo Laredo and the audits, have we had like a lot of members suspended or canceled, or they are just passing the validations? What are the numbers since the offices start going to Nuevo Laredo to validate that?
Okay, as far as the validations, I'll get to specifics because that's information we still have to kind of filter. The validations have been going very well from what I understand. As I mentioned, we went to Nuevo Laredo, we were accompanied by seasoned specialists from Miami. And as far as the transportation companies, they were very impressed by what they actually saw. It's different from what they were used to seeing 15 or 20 years ago when they were last able to kind of go freely into Nuevo Laredo. So they were pretty impressed with the facilities. And then the one manufacturer, without mentioning the manufacturer's name, it's basically a tier 3 manufacturer. So you know the standards that they run. So if there are any things I would just ask to be patient for, it's for the new applicants because our focus has been concentrating on those members that have been waiting for that validation, trying to focus on our local members and our local trade. I know you may hear some people may be kind of getting a little bit impatient as far as new applicants, but it is coming along. But our focus right now is all this for trading purposes and just as a courtesy to our existing members was to try to get everybody validated, visited, and taken care of first. So from what I understand, there's 100+ applicants since we actually opened the office. So that's going to be faced.
That's good.
Yeah, just trying to get those new members.
How can we as a city or also put as a trade representative here, can we support you and kind of, we want to work on getting more involvement because I know the numbers are still, you guys want to reach a higher number, at the same time, we know you guys don't want to just give it away.
Yeah, that's where we kind of are, just trying to find that balance since we are such a new office. That's kind of the hard part right now because just purely on word of mouth, everybody knew. Once we had that ribbon cutting, it was enough through media and just word of mouth and just, word through the industry, we were able to get 100 applicants so quickly. I think that was phenomenal just to get that many interested new parties. As far as the majority, at least for Laredo, what we're seeing, I can tell you this, the majority of the applicants are still involved in transportation. I'd probably say 90% of what I've seen as far as the applicants still in transportation, the remaining 10 are in the manufacturing.
How about brokers?
Brokers, very few, sir.
I know one of the that's kind of explained, I kind of wish I there was here, but the revalidation process is a challenge.
Yeah.
A lot of us still, like Jerry said, from out within the area, we prefer to be within the area, but that's another story. But a lot of times we try to go out there, we have questions, trying to get in touch with ACS. It's a challenge. Can we lean on you guys for support on that, or do we have to really?
If they're general questions, we can help, but the problem is the accounts do belong to another office and they do belong to another specialist and another manager, so you don't want to step on anybody's toes. But if it's a general question, like if you really don't understand what this question is, or we can give you some guidance. We won't ignore the call or, to contact your specialist, we'll try to guide you if we can.
I don't know.
Taking over the account.
I don't know if you guys just came out recently with a new change where you have to log on once every 45 days or you get your account closed out, so.
By the way, if you do get logged out, you can contact your specialist and you can access it, so.
Oh no, my corporate put a reminder on everybody's calendar for that.
Any additional questions, anybody? There's no agenda item. Great, no
Thank you.
agenda
Thank you
item.
for the information. Thank you for the great work.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Right. Moving right along. You gonna stick around or you gonna visit the Green Quarter?
I would like to, Judy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Moving on, item number 3, presentation on behalf of Green Corridor for the construction and maintenance of operation of commercial elevated guideway border crossing in Laredo, Texas, and Madison. Right.
Who's presenting for that? Is it
Yeah,
city?
if I may, good evening, Edseno Bosa for the record from the Laredo Bridge Systems. For the presentation, for the Green Quarters, we had Mr. Juan Carlos Castello. He had agreed to provide you with the information and the presentation, but he had some inconvenience in the Monterrey, with the Gobernador. So he will not be able to be here. He said he's more than welcome. He can excuse him and attend the next Board of Entry to provide you some information. As information I have, if you allow me, I have limited information. If you want to wait for his presentation, or I can give you a heads up on what was discussed on Monday's council meeting. Mayor had an item to work on an MOU, so.
Please share the information.
So, he did mention that they're currently working on an MOU based on the directive given on Monday's council meeting by the mayor. And it's basically similar to the information given to you right now by Mr. Albert Flores. They're working on that. That MOU basically was maybe in 2015, 2016 that they started working on that. I do not have the information on what happened those 10 years after that, but they brought it up again. They're working on that. Mr. Juan Carlos Gastelum is working currently on that MOU to present that to the mayor and council. And basically, it's only private funds. There's no city funds or bridge funding into this project. And basically, that's the information that I have right now. So the information that Mr. Carlos Gastelum will provide will be more effective and more in detail for the next Board of Entry.
Something that I'd like to comment to the appointees of the mayor and the council members is that this is going to be another revenue stream. And I know that city manager has proposed that this goes strictly into the general fund.
Correct, and
I would propose that we talk to all our who appointed us to ensure that some of that at least goes back into the bridge system and into the trade and development and expansions and everything that we're doing, because just adding it to the general fund, I mean, we need to make sure that the bridge system is set up for future, winning coming up. So, I would just advise that. Sure.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, on the bridge, but if it's a private bridge, how do they share the funds?
Exactly.
No, the tolls are Laredo's.
The tolls be, okay, so
since
then,
it's gonna cross to Monterrey and I-35 and 255. That's why I didn't want to give any details on the funding. I don't know the percentage that will be shared with the city.
well, there has to be, if they're gonna put their private money, they have to get their investment back. Exactly.
Correct, and that's information that will be provided from this.
Because there's, how many other bridges are private? I think there's only like one or two, right, down in the valley? One in the valley? San Bale or?
San Bale.
Yeah.
No, whatever agreement the council makes as far as the percentages, we just want to make sure that percentage stays in the bridge system.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the wishes of the board are. And simply because there is quite a bit of future expenditures that are expected on the bridge system. So I don't think this is a time to lose any revenue.
We want to know the plans. I remember when I saw the only presentation that they'd given in Laredo was that they needed 400 acres on each side to do this project. So it's like, where are you gonna get 400 acres for this type of process?
And that's what the councilwoman Melissa Ciudadano asked that question to the person that was presenting WebEx on Monday. If the land on both sides, if it was secured, if there were agreements already in place, in order to secure this project. And they said that, yes, it was in process.
But they already purchased?
Yeah, the private sector's gonna have to come in on those.
We gotta wait for them to give the presentation anyway, for the details.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just speculation.
Yeah.
They mentioned if it was purchased or not, that it was in process.
I mean, we have a lot of questions. I mean, especially when they're talking about the B1 drivers, those things. When you put it in that thing and you cross it, that Mexican driver cannot haul that thing in this side, period. Period.
Well,
So-
really, what I see is exactly that, but it doesn't affect the American company.
No, no, but what I'm saying, if it's a big percentage, as he mentioned, it's not a big percentage, but imagine if it was, because we had heard 50 or more than 50% was a B1. And if you would just put it in that thing and just cross it through that thing, that driver cannot grab it on the US and take it.
On the contrary, it's going to benefit the U.S. trucking.
Yes.
Yes, but I have 100 questions, but I want to see the presentation first.
Yeah.
Well, they got a permit.
That's the interesting part. They got a permit
They got a
and
permit, so they're very well connected.
But.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing about $1 billion.
Faster than what we know.
Yeah.
True, you make a good point, because the fact is, a lot of times we're reactive, not proactive. And we should use some of that funds to kind of work on proactive infrastructure that we need to start focusing on, because considering we got, what's that, four bridges or, that are expansion programs that we're going through, and the bridges, we gotta sit to take that into consideration.
I mean, it's gonna be,
They ain't gonna pay for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
it's gonna be a heavy hit, okay, because these are revenue bonds. And when you sell these revenue bonds, that the only place to pay that debt service is from your existing revenues. It's nothing that comes in from anywhere else. It's just, so that means that our revenues are gonna take a dip to pay for that debt service. Hopefully, the traffic continues to expand and rise, and that's where they come in, the staff and the board. Okay, guys, I mean, the revenue is here, the debt service is up here, so do we need to raise fees, minimal amount here to cover those costs? But every single dollar that we can generate needs to stay in the system, just so that we can assure that the future bridges that we have in mind can have the funding capabilities based on the revenue sources that we have. So I think it'd be real important. It's early, but you know what? You know, this business, things go pretty quickly.
And how about the MOU? Do they have anticipated timeframe? Did they mention that they plan on doing this or no?
They didn't specify that, they just gave that directly.
Or, I mean, we should give comments. Hopefully, we can see the presentation, provide comment prior to the MOU, so we can go ahead and make these suggestions that we're talking about right now.
I mean, this is going to streamline the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendously. I mean, you guys are in it. I
See,
mean,
they've never done it anywhere.
Never.
Anywhere. I mean,
Exactly.
any place in this world. It was like the first thing, it was like some idea that somebody brought up. That's what.
I mean, they thought about doing that in San Diego, California,
Also, too, I think, too.
just to move the containers that they have. That's how busy it was at that time. But they just didn't have the space for it. But it's been around for a while, so, I mean,
When you have $1 billion, you got the ear of the president.
yeah, it's,
So do we have to make a motion to move this for the next agenda item, or we just go ahead and move it on?
We could just.
Table it?
Table.
Table.
Table. All right, table. All right, now, I'll figure turn for staff goes.
Thank you for the wait, going back on your regular monthly insufficient fund refunds for May 2025. And I'll provide more information based also on when this company was an agenda item on the minutes. So, we did have a slight reduction in returns of 136 in World Trade, 10 in Colombia, for a total of 146. We have your neutral total commercial accounts, 5,069, with a total 109, percentage of 2.15. On your breakdown, as you can see, we did have a decrease from the past months from 11 to 9 to 6. So we only had 6 accounts with 4 returns, different companies. And as mentioned, every month we do follow our due diligence on letting them know, emailing them, calling them, and last resort will be to suspend. Yes, the issues that we are having is based on they're able to remove their credit card and the auto replenish. So this is something that we're working on based on what Mayor Pro Tem wanted, a presentation and some recommendations on bridge side. So what we're trying to do right now, first of all, is revamping the application itself. It's been more than 15 years that the application has not been revised and it's still being done manually. So we've been working with IT. Actually, we met yesterday, and it's been like 4 or 5 meetings. I'm not an IT expert, but I know there's a lot of data on work that needs to be done to do this application online. It will be both in English and Spanish. We're trying to include some verbiage to say for the customer that applies that they're providing the city and the bridge system to get these funds through their credit card, and we will also want to remove the access they have to remove the credit card or the auto replenish, because this is what's also causing that. They're able right now to go in there, you have a driver that pays because the company removed their credit card. So the driver has to use their own personal debit or credit card, but when they're done with the transaction, they remove it, because they don't want someone else to use their credit card. So this is what's happening. So what we're trying to do, and we also made a small study in other ports of entry, what applications they use online. So what we're trying to do is remove that. They don't have access to do that. And also by them authorizing, it's just a box that you check mark, same as when you do a purchase online. You're authorizing this company to do this payment. We did talk to legal to see if there's any state statutes that we don't want to violate by not providing this access to them or not. We should be good. So we hopefully by doing this, we should have less U-turns as well. I know Councilwoman Melissa Sierra mentioned that she couldn't believe that this has never been done, like in English and Spanish to provide those. And I understand most of the people speak Spanish, but we also, our staff spends a lot of time translating the application in Spanish. So we're working together with all bridge staff supervisors, had a meeting as well with their financial analysts to get their input, because they're the ones that are out there on a day-to-day basis with these people. So we're trying little by little to do this. I don't want to say baby steps, but it's things that haven't been done in years. Why? I don't have an answer, but we're trying right now. 3 months that I've been here, we've been done a lot. And staff, I want to commend you for everything you've done to help us move forward. And we have, even though we collect funds, about 18,000 a month, which is 16,000 from World Trade and 2,000 from Colombia. All these funds are grouped together. We use it for projects, we use it for renovations that we've done, and the projects that we used. All these monies at the end go to the fund balance. So we're trying to use these monies as a whole right now. We just started with, we want to start with the renovation project for Bridge 2, the admin building that is out there.
The World Trade renovation?
It's in process.
Still?
Yes, it's still in process. We started on April 22nd, right after the your 25th anniversary. We started a week after too, so it's ongoing. The next building we want to do is Bridge 2. It's very outdated. Slay Architects are working right now with the assessment. Like I had mentioned before, the award was given back in May for 96,000. We're waiting to see what's going to be the cost. The funds are already allocated. So this is what we're trying to do before all the funds are released. At the end of the fiscal year, we're trying to keep them right now and find a lot of projects that we can do right now. So we're working on the budget. So basically, we're trying to do this in-house right now, revamping the application and not allowing the clients to remove their credit card and the auto replenish. And this is something that was brought last year. It's been a year, on June 10th. And my comments are, in a year, I can't believe that nobody looked into it. Why did we have to wait a year? But we're trying, to move forward with everyone's assistance. And the next page, of course.
Just a question on that. I know that we've been doing this, and this new brought awareness to, they had to approve it at council. They just didn't think about that, or because they were aware of it, because we've been starting to make recommendations.
I don't have an answer for you. It was not a pilot program. It was an agenda item approved on June 10th to increase the fee from $50 to $100.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they started with this new fees, and they did provide an announcement in English and Spanish to let the public know about this change. It is. I was advised that an email was also sent to all the emails that they have currently on file back then in around July 15, before they started with this. But we're trying to see how this works. And I know council gave a directive to go back into council meetings, hopefully August 4th. We'll have this application online and run.
Thank you.
You have your reports, your auto replenish visual, you have your total accounts right now, 7,485. You have the percentage that are commercial and non-commercial. And this is something that we're trying to look into, have everyone be on the auto replenish. But we're also looking into that. And you have your graph there on the numbers have been decreased, since back in March 22nd, we've seen a decrease, but we still would like to be at zero. Just to give a little update, on your empty lane signs, we should be receiving them by the second week of July. From there, I know for that, so I have been working very diligently with them. We're ordering the signs for the empty lanes, and as soon as we get this in July, we will advise traffic to coordinate in order to install this. On the other portion, I know Port Police had WebEx, and including TxDOT, to include some signs on I-69 for the gantry signs. They haven't heard anything. I know Kent did the favor to follow up with Port Police. They haven't heard from TxDOT. It's probably under review. The Riverbank Road, I got some information today from engineering. They're still reviewing the design in-house for quality assurance and quality control. The reason they've been taking a little long, they're short staffed. As mentioned, we're following through with the border wait time measurement system, provided by TxDOT and TAMIU. We got the agreement approved last week. So we got the green light from our legal team to do this agreement as a resolution for the council meeting on July 21st. Why July 21st? Because they always cancel them first. So hopefully, they did request TAMIU and TxDOT to provide access to the premises, to look into where they'll be located. And as per legal, they were allowed to be on the premises. But until the agreement is signed and approved by council, then they have to look like to move on. So that's all I have for you. Right now, any questions? I just didn't want to be repetitive.
The green corridors, back to them, they already presented to city council, or they will be presenting to city council? Or?
They had a WebEx,
Oh, okay.
but it was not a formal presentation.
Will they be presenting to them before they come to our meeting? Because I know their meeting will be
They're
first.
working on the MOU, but we're allowed to make a presentation with the same information they provided.
Yeah.
And we could accommodate them if they have to log in online as well, right? I mean, just as long as we get a presentation. What do y'all think?
No, we'll do that if they're not, if they don't have the ability.
For sake of time.
He's available.
Yeah,
Right.
the video wise, but we need to get, so
We
we
need
need
to
to
have
park that,
some
and we want to show priority.
It needs to be prior so you can provide the recommendation, but if they're not available in person, if y'all don't mind, we can do a webinar.
That makes sense. Go from board English.
Maybe the city might even consider buying some of that land.
Check this strategic. But, all right,
The city limits is all the way to the bridge. That's where things.
yeah, but that's only before.
It's gonna be for the bridge. That is
No,
Tamaulipas.
no, it's on the north side.
It's
On the
Tamaulipas.
north side, so no, the south side's already Tamaulipas. They put it right on the border.
Long time ago.
It's gonna be on the north side from what I.
They have support. Or they don't go
I mean, if the city needs to control that footprint,
I get an XL part.
we need to look at that because
From what I understand,
You don't-
they can't annex that stuff anymore. That's why we have the 845 issue.
yeah, well, see, that's the thing that if you were to obtain that property, you're gonna need loading docks, offloading,
So you need 400 acres.
and this could very easily
start
fall
off-
under an economic development
Well, need to.
initiative to, people
big-
might wanna even build warehousing.
My question.
Before we go that far, we have to remember the very basic thing. It's cost. What do I pay right now to cross a dry van from $200 top end, right?
Nobody's been able to answer my question.
So-
What's the benefit?
So that
of
is
this?
why I want to see what they're going to invest a lot of money in this, and I get it. But how far? I mean, do they want to get their investment back in 1,000 years, or what is their game plan here? Because the market does not justify. If I have a customer and I tell him, "Hey, customer, there's this really nice train robot. I don't know what it's called, but it's not going to cost 200. It's going to cost X amount." He's going to be, "Oh, that's nice. Put it with a driver. What's wrong with you?" So then that's logic. That's the world I live in. So that's why I wanna see their presentation and look at numbers because we have to be honest with their project. If it's, I mean,
Is it feasible?
Feasible.
But if the
Exactly.
money's-
In the
if the
first
monies are
presentation,
coming in
they
from
said
the
they
private
could cross
sector, that shouldn't
40,000
be a
trailers a
business
day.
decision from them.
Exactly, and I
Yeah.
want to be
Not-
transparent.
Not from us.
Of course, but I want to be transparent to
That's
know
their
what we
money.
They
pay.
can charge
If
$100.
their numbers don't work, it's
They-
their
Well, yeah,
loss.
Right? Yeah, I
That was
agree.
the bet.
They charge a
Not
lot.
the
That's-
taxpayer.
But then there was a lot of.
Going
They're
in
gonna
as a
have
business.
another La
Anyway,
Gloria. Another La Gloria?
next meeting?
They're working on it, okay, so we'll just let everybody have their talking so
Molding. They're molding.
All right, now moving right along, I know that, I was talking to,
July 16th.
Carlos, that he said there, the meeting for the Mexican Brokers Convention is gonna be during the week of the 16th. So we're looking at, if we can have it either the 23rd, that'll be all right with everybody, July 23rd, so we don't disrupt that, 16th. We're having like a person.
I'm gonna be.
The 23rd? Well, I don't mind. The 23rd is fine.
All in agreement?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, so 23rd, we'll go ahead. July 23rd will be our next meeting. And then, with that being said, any motion adjourned?
Second.
Second.
Okay. That's it. Meeting adjourned.